Good afternoon, everybody. I'm taking this opportunity to extend welcome to Professor B.S. Ghuman, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Punjabi University, Patiala. He is academician and researcher par excellence. I'm happy that he has consented to deliver the inaugural address because I think his experience is as vast as nothing else. He has very versatile areas in social sciences in which he had researched, or he had guided the students, or he had the projects in various areas of administration, education administration, policy administration, police administration, economics of administration, etc. Professor Ghuman is going to take up the second term as Vice Chancellor of Punjabi University the next month. I congratulate him on this selection for the second term. Under his stewardship, Punjabi University Patiala in last 3 years has scaled mentionable heights. In the recently released NIRF, National Institutional Ranking Framework 2020, the university had been ranked 64th amongst the university ranking. And it is worth mentioning that in 2019's ranking framework, the university was placed in 151 to 200 slot. Means the university had raised its status in academics in about 100 slots above than the last year. And it's really mentionable, and the credit may be attributed to the stewardship of Professor B.S. Ghuman. At the same time, the Education World Ranking released just last week placed Punjabi University Patiala at the top of the state universities in the state of Punjab. It is another feather in the cap of Professor B.S. Ghuman. Dear colleagues, I would like to mention here that Punjabi University is one of the largest state university catering to about 300 institutes, mostly in the rural belt of the Punjab Malwa belt. So I congratulate for all these achievements to Professor B.S. Ghuman. The elaborative profile has already been read by Professor Mohan Sharma. Sir, today's FDP was envisioned that because the tough times like pandemic disturb social fabric and hence affect the societal concerns. Usually the theories or phenomena are based on the assumptions of norm and not for the new normals. Rather, the new normals challenge the existing theories to be retested and revalidated. As recent examples, we witnessed a turbulence in community health, education, welfare economy, social coexistence, police administration in the recent past. Sir, so we felt the need to equip the competence in appreciation of societal issues based on sound foundation of social theories and research methodology. Out of this felt need, we designed this one-week FDP. More than 900 participants had been registered with us, and more than 500 had joined us by now. I hope they will be benefited from this FDP.
Good evening, friends. First of all, I'm delighted to know that the Council for Teacher Education Foundation, Punjab and Chandigarh chapter, and Modi College Patiala are jointly organizing 5 days faculty development program on a very relevant and timely theme: research methodology and statistics in social sciences. On this occasion, I have with me my dear colleague, Professor R.G. Kothari ji, Vice Chancellor, VNSC University, Surat, and another dear friend with whom I have worked very closely, Dr. Mrs. Tinder Tillon, Vice President of CTEF, and also a very dear friend with whom again I worked at Punjab University, now working at Punjab University, Dr. Khushwinder Kumar, Principal MMMC College, and Dr. Mohan Sharma, and many other colleagues from this region as well as across the country. When I was just having a look upon the registration, it's overwhelming. I'm delighted to know that overwhelming response, both Council for Teacher Education Foundation and MMOD College got. So this 5 days faculty development program on research methodology is concerned, I'm very pleased, delighted that there is a huge response for improving quality of research in social sciences. On this opportunity, to congratulate both Council for Teacher Education as well as Modi College for organizing this 5 days development.
Let me share a brief profile of Dr. R.G. Kothari. Professor Dr. R.G. Kothari, MSc, MAd, PhD, is a distinguished educationist and professor and dean at the Department of Education, CASE, MS University, Vadodara. He has also remained the Vice Chancellor of the VNSG University, Surat, from June 2005 to 2008. With over 37 years of teaching and research experience, Professor Kothari is a well-known figure in the educational community and has served on top-level committees of the UGC and the government on educational reforms. He has published over 250 research papers in national and international journals, guided over 70 PhD, MPhil and MAd students at various levels, and has completed over 20 research projects from various agencies. Professor Kothari has also published numerous books and serves on the editorial boards of the prominent journals. He has received numerous awards for his contribution in the field of education, some of which are the National Award for Teacher Educators, the Siddhi Vandana Award, and the Ramanujan Award, etc. Professor Kothari is also a member of various academic organizations and councils of the government. His main areas of interest are teaching of mathematics, teacher education, research methodology, and higher education. I deem it an honor to invite Dr. Kothari for the keynote address. Dr. Kothari.
Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, then Principal Dr. Khushvinder ji, other participants. This is about the faculty development program, and I have to deliver a keynote address. UGC made a compulsory qualification that to be appointed as a lecturer in higher education, there was a mushroom growth in PhD degree holders. And as a result, somebody said also that academic community, it means me and other all guides, they also responded it like anything. So in 2002 December, approximately 11,300 scholars were awarded PhD degree. Remember, in 2002, by hook or crook, they submitted. Because after submission, how much time it takes for the result that I know. Sometimes I will be talking to you also. So in 2002, nearly 11,300 scholars were awarded PhD degree. And out of them, 3,900 were from science only. So I said that if you want to examine the quality of the research, I have 3 points in my mind. That number one, functions and role of research. And earlier with various definition I shared, to solve the problem, determination to solve the problem, to establish the relationship. So first, I'm putting 3 criteria for the quality of research in social sciences. Functions and role of research. What is role of research? What society expects from the research? What various policy expects from the research or the university? Second is the ethical principles of the research, where people had not bothered much, and writing part is also very less. And third is process of conducting research. These 3 points I would put before you. Then I will say that what are the main purpose? I will say 3 main purpose. Now I am on the first part. First is to solve the problems in the field. To solve the problems in the field. Today we are not able to do our fundamental research, and all laboratories, they are trying hard to find out the a receipt for this, some vaccine for this COVID. We are yet not successful. You say that that is not our function of social sciences. Then what is the function of social sciences? You have to design a program, because as a result of this, there are lots of pressure, lots of stress, tension, and people develop frustration. So you have to develop a program for this, how to stop this frustration. So research-based alternatives you have to use. So these are the problems, to solve the problems in the field of education, to establish the relationship among the variables, and to generate knowledge. These are the main three functions of the research. Now, are we able to do this? Your VC sir very rightly said, and I would like to quote the Narlikar sir in 2005. You know the Narlikar son and father both, says that no research is better than bad research. No research is better than bad research. So quality should be the great concern for that, right? And he also said that in teaching, faculty is not associated with research, then whole research process of teaching learning becomes stale, S-T-A-L-E. So teaching and research should go together. That's what he said. Research should generate teaching patterns, and teaching should generate some research. This is how the relationship. So Jayant Narlikar further said that in India, sadly, the research element is greatly underemphasized in our universities, while teaching is neglected in our research institute. That's what it is his opinion anyway, but this is the role and functions of research. There are one or two more people, they also said that the vast majority of research has little or no relevance to immediate needs of the society. And in most of the areas, the quality of research is poor. This is what said by one gentleman, Gupta, 2003. I think he wrote an article in University News, later it was published in the book also. There was another gentleman, Dahiya. He said that, of course, his observations are quite, you can say, quite negative. Related to doctoral research, he said, according to him, more than 80% of PhD are bogus, stereotype, repetitive, plagiarized, and hence irrelevant. So this is the quality of research as envisaged by n number of people. Earlier in education also, I have seen that many studies have been conducted in the field of program learning, multimedia, computer-aided instruction, correlates of achievement. But findings of these studies has never reached to the practitioners, and thus user community could not take the advantage. So this is what Honorable Vice Chancellor also said, that you are writing in English and a teacher is teaching in Hindi, Punjabi or Gujarati, he will not be able to read your thesis also. So whenever you apply for a projects to the funding agency says that we are not almost interested in your entire study or 1 or 2 kg project. We are interested in 10 to 20 lines findings, which are in that regional language where our customers or our stakeholders can understand. That is very much important. So, n number of things are there today. And in India, we have proved that this program learning material was found to be quite effective in India. When Professor M.B. Bush wrote third survey of research in education, and he had an area of research that is technology, educational technology. And while searching, it was found that there were about 120 studies. Out of them, 70 to 80 studies were in the program learning. Now, this program learning has never entered to the classroom. And today is the time where we need a nice program learning, because we started online education. Then there are hue and cry about online education. I have recently listened to many parents also. They say there is only one mobile at home. We don't have a smart mobile. How many hours student can see? So you have to consult the eye specialist that how many hours he can sit, whether this internet connection is available or not. So in such a situation, if some program learnings are there based on our syllabus, and we have proved significantly better, the impact of the program learning was significantly better than the other approaches of teacher or teaching or methods of teaching. So this program learning could have been a very nice tool today, but they are only in the library and nothing much has been done. Neither the government, neither the departments of education at the government level, nobody is bothered about this. Otherwise, it has been significantly proved that program learning is far, far better. So if program programs are made available. Those who are having computer, let it be online, and those who are not having the access to computer, they can read the program and they can learn. But we have miserably failed. So that's why I say that your results of the thesis should go to the user community stakeholder. Right. Main role of research is to improve the classroom instruction, but that has also not been done. The classroom instruction still, the computer is the only thing where we are using in the classroom. Otherwise, other strategies have not gone to the classroom. Now, if you see other part of that 78% of supervisors themselves felt that the hardly any thesis made intellectual contribution. Now, these are not my words. These are the words of Rais Ahmad and Madhulika Rakesh in 1991. They studied the 9,000 PhD theses, and conclusion was drawn that 78% of supervisors, those who have guided, they feel that we are not making any intellectual contribution. 60% of supervisor thought that most of them were repetitive studies and the phenomena by known methods. How many studies are there in qualitative research? Very few. I think not even 1% nowadays, because you have to read a lot qualitative research. Scientific research or with positive paradigm, it's quite easy. But if you go to the qualitative, I think it's very difficult, very difficult. Now, enough books are available. Your Vice Chancellor also said that John W. Creswell has written almost 3 books: quantitative research, qualitative research, quantitative and qualitative mixed method research. Almost 700 to 800 page book he has written. Lofando has written, Patton has written, right? Wilson has written. So many books are there in qualitative. John Best has added a chapter, but still because we want a common method, because that qualitative is not that easy. Nearly 70% of supervisor work in isolation. This point was also highlighted by your Honorable Vice Chancellor. We are working in isolation. If I am working in this area, I will not discuss with others. So discussing and doing the similar work, that is not happening. And every year it is said, I think this is 10 years old data, that more than 3,000 theses approved every year. About 700 are fairly good. Others are not appealing to the people. Applied research also, which accounts 80% of this, but they are mediocre and without any intellectual input. So this is what I said. So for purpose of research is concerned, we have miserably failed to identify a problem which will help to guide the nation, which will help to guide the policy, all other things. That's what. So policy research, we should say, and that will be helpful, that this is the policy where government has spent crores of rupees and what are the results. So both the way, after the scheme is implemented, you evaluate. And before the scheme is to be implemented, you guide them. This is all about the purpose of research. Second part is ethical principles of research. Now, ethics, we were not much bothered. Even in some of the books, chapter on ethics was also not there. I think John Best later added the chapter on ethics and many other books after that. I think last 20 years we had been talking. And even APA, American Psychological Association, they had also a good thing to talk about the research. Now, we never bother for time is not much there. So I will say informed consent. So we collect the data from the participant, but participant doesn't know why I had been a participant in this particular study, what I am supposed to do. He has no clarity about our objective. So involves the sample's complete understanding. A researcher must have sample complete understanding of the procedure employed. Risk involved, this should be there, but it is not there. Nowadays, people started, say FDP is conducted, then these are the participants, they will send a tool in mobile only, and they will say, you fill up this. I don't know that how I had been selected as a participant, by which methodology, nothing is clear to. So second thing is privacy. We don't bother. I have seen a thesis where they have written the name of the schools and colleges, which we are not supposed to write. Think if qualitative research is there, that will be also there, but there are also some ethical principles are there. So to observe and record intimate behavior that sample has reason to believe as a private, that should not be there. In conducting the qualitative research, I know I had studied one study where 125 participants were selected from 5th and 6th grade in US, and complete understanding was taken. Apart from that, their permission from parents, supervisor, and school authority was also taken. Then we should proceed. So we enter the classroom, we distribute our whatever the tool, and we collect the data, and we say goodbye. Even it is said that they must have apart from confidentiality, they must know our results also, knowledge of outcome. Sample has a right to receive an explanation for the reason, experiment procedure, and results of the investigation. They must be at least concerned for that, but nobody does it. So these are, I will not go beyond that, but ethical principles are there not only for researchers, it is also there for the examiner also. A well-known author, Kapoor, in 2003 said, the standards of PhD have fallen. Why? Why standards of PhD has fallen? These are the, he said, filling of mutual obligations of examiner to one another. आप हमारा thesis evaluate कर दो, मेरे student का, मैं आपका student का कर लूँगा. That is not a good thing. The examiners are being sympathetic. Many examiners, I met one, he said, कोठारी साहब मैं सबको पास कर देता हूँ. मैंने बोला बहुत अच्छा काम करते हो आप. So they say that बेचारा इतना काम किया, 3 years he had worked. So apparently we give the degree for the hard work, but he is producing a worthless thesis that we never see. Lack of professional seriousness in examining the thesis also. I have seen people taking more than 1 year to evaluate the PhD thesis. And I know in your area only, while visiting the Ludhiana and other places, while talking to the researcher, they said, sir, 2 साल से वाइवा नहीं हुआ. Thesis सब कर दिया, but 2 साल से वाइवा नहीं हुआ. This is very poor situation. What will be the status of PhD student? They will develop the frustration, and it will lead to something else. So lack of professional seriousness in the examining the thesis also. And sometimes we examine the thesis in the area which are not in their specialization. Which are not in their specialization. And they say, usme kya hai? Research to research hai, we know all the steps. So this should not be there. So this is also unethical, right? Not submitting the report in time, and also examining the thesis where you don't have a specialization. So most of the researchers heavily rely on the second resource. This is another unethical part. But when they mention as if they have, he has not read the book of Patton on qualitative research, but he has read the book of John West, where he is on and often quoting Patton. But when he writes straight away the Patton. Now that is unethical part. That should also not be there. And most of the researchers do not quote all the references, all the authors that they have taken or that they have used and they have quoted in the text. They are not being quoted. Many of them are missing. This is very, very, you can say, serious part, because ultimately, and I will not talk about the intellectual theft and plagiarism and all other things, but that is also there. So this is also a second thing. And now I will go to the third part. I will not much that about the quality of research in terms of the process of research. Process of research. Now there are two ways. Whether shall we go for writing a theoretical background or what we call a conceptual background. People say that you have to cut, copy and paste, but you can acknowledge. Suppose you are working in the field of say curriculum development, then a number of authors are there, right from John Dewey, 1902, he said the child and the curriculum. Franklin Bobbitt, he said the curriculum. Taylor, he said about the curriculum development. Hilda Taba in 1962. Then Saylor and Alexander Saylor, and there was another author also. Then then Wiles and Body, and number of things are there. So if you don't go for looking for a theoretical background, you will be lost. You cannot come to the particular conceptual framework. So in process, that part is missing. Second, what is missing? That a strong rationale for conducting research is missing. Strong rationale. People write in a few universities, I have seen they write need of a study, they write importance of the study, they write significance of study. Till today, I cannot understand what is the difference between two. So you write a rationale clearly why this particular study was taken up. And that should be coming out from your review. many times what happens, we don't go for a exhaustive review also. And review is written, okay, fine. Review is written, 1, 2, 3. There is also a question, how many reviews we should write. There is no answer to it. How many you have to write, how you are writing. But review is not comprehensive. And at the end of a review, what we do, we don't try to identify research gaps. I think you should answer 2 questions after your review. 2 questions. Question number 1 is, what has been done so far? When you found out that there are 70 studies in the field of program learning material, or there are 70 studies related to the stress management. Now, find out what has been done so far. How, when, where. So in first question, there are again how they have done it. They have gone for a qualitative study, they have gone for a case study, or they have used a experimental design. How they have done, why they have done, which design you have. So what has been done so far? And second question is, what needs to be done? If these 2 questions are based on your 30, 40, 50, 100 researches which you have reviewed, and if you are coming out answering these 2, and if you are writing 2 good pages on that, that will be a nice thing. That is your nice concluding on the review of related literature. That never happens. If you write simple, I have seen studies at the PhD level also, they will write down that X 1987 and last is say Z 2019. That's all. But after that, he is not coming out. So you should identify the research gaps. And for these research gaps, which variable has been taken so far, which samples were studied, how the studies are old, how many times syllabus is changed, all these things points you have to keep in your mind. That is the review. So review is also not properly done, hurriedly done. Now tool construction I have seen, as far as possible we are interested in the ready-made tools. I won't quote the agencies, but in North also many agencies are available, they are charging and you can get the tools. But the question is how old tools should be. I have seen right now only I had a crash well. I was referring to page 158, and in the last line he has written that if tool is more than 5 years old, it should not be used. Now you go through our thesis, take another study that how many students they have used old tools. And when it comes to the, say, socio-economic status, all these things, it's very sad that when as soon as the salary structure changes, so many things are changing, SES has to be changed, right? But that is also not happening. Still we go with X test, Y test of socio-economic status. That should not. So how old tools should be used? Valid answer is given by the Creswell on his comprehensive book on 4th edition. Yeah, that it should not be less than 5 years. And construction of the tool. Now many people, they don't go for an entire process. Even the questionnaire, if you want to prepare a nice questionnaire, best book for this Science of Educational Research by Mowley, he has given 7 to 8 steps for construction. I have seen nobody has bothered to gone through this. These are the framework, these are the review. The review is not only studies, but review is with such facts also, that what Mowley said, right? So they don't follow. Second thing that many times what they do, they will be preparing the tool, so items are there or the sentences are there, then they will send it to the experts. And I have seen nowadays that many experts, they will write, okay, it seems good, or like that only. There are very few who clearly gives the remarks. They say it's a charity, so what to do? They don't bother. They expect money from this also. And second thing, suppose somebody has given the opinion, then also what people do, researchers do, that they don't show the details of the what comments had been given. They say, as per the suggestions given by the expert, tool has been revised. No, I don't agree to this. I said, yeah, put your first draft of a tool also, that here there are 70 items were there. When it was second, expert number 1 said your item number 1, 5 and 7 are almost similar. You can drop and make them 1. Some items are absolutely useless. They do not relate. Like that, a number of comments are there. So based in these comments, a summarized paragraph should be there in the thesis. And then you say that now this is the second draft. If there is third draft, I think put it in appendix also, third part also. but this is not happening. Many times people go for reliability and validity. They say reliability was 0.89, but how? No, it was not there. Of course, calculation cannot be shown in the thesis, formula cannot be shown in the thesis, but raw data should be there in the appendix. That this is the pre-test score, this is the post-test score, and from that, or parallel form test is there, or KR20 reliability is there. You put all this data and say that now it is coming to 0.89. So this is another about the tool construction and technical know-how of data analysis. Sometimes I have seen people are using that there are marks. The data was in interval school and they have gone for chi-square analysis. So technical know-how for using the t-test, ANOVA, ENCOVA, this never happens. And that's why many times when social science people go to statistician for data analysis, they laugh. Yes, sir, this data is a nominal data. You can't go for any further analysis. So still there is no clarity about that. And so there are various assumptions of normality, that randomization should be there, normality should be there, equal variances should be almost equal, but nobody bothers to this. So that should be taken care of. And last part for me is a sampling part. That is the weakest form in the majority of the thesis. Weakest form. I have seen a thesis here, it has written that for the present study, 20 schools have been selected. Now, I don't know how these 20 schools are selected. What is the unit of sampling? Is it the students or is it the school? If you have used cluster sampling, fine. You say that there are 400 schools, out of them 20 schools have selected randomly, underline the word randomly. So we are going for a probabilistic sampling design. So you don't bother to write about whether it is probability sampling, non-probability. Most of the people, they avoid writing about the population. I don't know. There are people, they say, why you worry for population? Many times you say that you are taking 20% of population. So where is your population? So size of population, I think Windsor or somebody, he has clearly mentioned that size of population should be mentioned. There are people, they don't write about the population. There are people, they don't write about the population. You should write that population of present study is 20,000 students studying in class 9th in so-and-so district, in so-and-so state. So that this is known as the clearly defined. Some people say all students in this districts were considered. No, that all is not well defined. You write the size. And when especially you go for a stratification, then cells are each stratum. So entire population should be divided. If it is 20,000, if you are considering that first my variable was location, rural area, semi-urban area, and urban area, then this 20,000 should be divided and size clearly written that semi-urban there were 5,000, 10,000 urban, and the rest of the. Within that also you are writing that now how many girls and boys are there, gender is one of the, then again bifurcate and each cell. So finally, if there are 16 strata, so each stratum you have to write the size, and that total of all strata should come to 20,000. But this never happens. I have seen people writing the table for boys and girls, writing the table for girls and boys, urban and rural, and whatever variable separately. All 3-4 chapter tables are shown separately. I don't like this. I say that single table should represent your 20,000 population, come to that. So that never happened. And second thing, that we never bother about sample. Whenever we talk, कई लोग guide भी ऐसा बोलते हैं. Are you doing a master's level? Then take 200. Are you going for MPhil? Then take 500. Are you going for PhD? Take 1,000. I think this is absolutely illogical argument. Nobody bothers how to draw a sample. First of all, we should see that whether our sample population is homogeneous or heterogeneous. If it is homogeneous, okay, small, you can work with a small sample also. But if it is heterogeneous, then comes the point which is known as standard error of whatever it may be. We say standard error of mean. So you know that standard error of mean is equal to sigma upon square root 10. So as size increases, because the reciprocal inverse relationship is there between standard error of mean and that size. So as size increases, then standard error is reducing. Right. So we have to keep this in mind, but that is also nobody bothers for that. And second thing, that in positive paradigm or the scientific method, what we try to do, we had a population, we study the sample, we draw a sample. Sample could be probability, non-probability. Accordingly, you have to go for the data analysis. That you have to remember. There are assumptions and assumptions which should follow. Right. So what you are doing, ultimately, you are studying, you are selecting a sample or drawing a sample, and you are studying some sample statistics, either measures of central tendency, measures of variation, or measures of correlation, whatever it may be. They are known as statistic, not S, statistic. And from this statistic, we apply appropriate inferential statistics, and then we try to estimate parameters, population parameter. So it's simple to remember: population parameter and sample statistic. So in this process, how much? See, nobody bothers. I have seen by now at least 215 theses. Nobody bothers for this particular criteria, that what is the error acceptable from this statistic to parameter, and what is the level of confidence. What we are doing, that we are testing the hypothesis at both the levels. And now the computer expert, they give you all levels. Wherever you want, you can find out the significant. But in social science research, we only go for 2, 0, 1 and 0, 5. And I have seen that if you want to say that I will work with only 0.5% error, that is 1/2% error, and would like to go for say 95% level of 0.5, then your sample, there is a formula, I think, which is the best author, Cochrane. Cochrane is the best author, but it is heavily loaded with mathematics. So he says that if this is the condition, 0.5% error is acceptable, and working at 0.5 level, I think your sample will be somewhere, I don't know, but it is, I think 843. That is the sample. But you say, no, I will not like to go for that. I would like to be more exact. I would like to go for 0.1 level of confidence. And sorry, 0.5 here. And here you can say 1% error. So here you said that I would like to go for 0.5 and 0.1 level. Your sample will go to 2,400 and something. So there is, you see, where 1% error and 0.5, 95% level of confidence, 483. And you say that I want reduce the error should be less, so 0.5% error and 99 level of confidence, 0.01, then your sample will go 2,400. So there is no clarity on this, and that is the weakest part in our thesis. So that's why I think the process part also you should see. So I have seen that if you want to examine the quality of research, number one is the purpose, and purpose that it should serve the society ultimately, and society should be benefited, our society's education, society, whatever it may be. So they must be benefited from our research, whether it is a stress, whether it is commitment, whether it is a job satisfaction, whatever it may be, right? Second is the ethical principles. Ethics, I think there are no any books on ethics. Chapters are written in the books also. Amar Jesani was one author. He has written one book. He was with Center for Social Study in Surat, and he has written a book, but his major focus was ethical consideration in medical sciences. When you prepare some medicine or ointment or something, it should not burn. At least you can't say that you work at a 0.5 level. 100 में से 5 लोगों को burn हुआ, that is also not allowed, because it is medicine. It should not harm the life, right? So ethical principles, I have seen some of them that quote all the authors you have cited. Don't go for a plagiarism. You are writing the definition of from Creswell, then Creswell should ask for the Creswell. If you are writing without Creswell, Creswell's word, that will be a plagiarism. That should not be there. So ethical principles, and last is process of research, where I have shown that significant problem should be there, contribution should be there, even sample should be much familiar with why you are doing this particular study. And last I concluded with the sampling part, and thesis writing and so many things are there. But mainly quality of thesis is examining by these 3 points. That's what I made clear. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Sincere thank you, sir, for your wonderful keynote address.
Thank
It
you.
is wonderful to have seasoned academicians like you and Dr. B.S. Guman to lead the way. There is always so much to learn and imbibe. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. It's time now to invite our resource person of the day, Dr. Amit Ahuja. Dr. Amit Ahuja, recipient of 32nd Dr. S. Radhakrishnan Memorial National Teacher Award 2016, is faculty at University School of Education Guru Gobind Singh, Indraprasth University, Delhi. He obtained a bachelor's, master and doctoral degree in education from the Department of Education, University of Delhi. He also obtained a master's degree with the distinction in chemistry from Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. He was awarded the Merit Scholarship for B.Ed by the Department of Education, the University of Delhi, the year 1997-98. His areas of specialization are the methodology of educational research, educational technology, cognitive psychology, science education, educational and vocational guidance, and social and adult education. He has supervised more than 65 M.Ed dissertations. He was a member of ICT Curriculum Group 2013 to work out curricula for ICT in education developed by Central Institute of Educational Technology, NCERT, New Delhi. He has presented research papers in national and international conferences, seminars in India and abroad. He has chaired the technical sessions in the international conferences at the University of Sussex, United Kingdom 2017, and the University of Toronto, Canada 2018. He has delivered video lectures for DEIED program NIOS channel number 32, Swam Prabha, on educational technology, EVS, and science education. He developed e-content under Government of India sponsored for Center for Developed E-Contents, Curriculum Research, Policy and Educational Development, School of Education, Central University of Punjab, Bathinda, Punjab. He also delivered a video lecture for online refresher course on educational research by NRC Mizoram on correlational research. He has regularly published research papers, articles, and concept papers in national and international journals of repute. He has been invited in various capacities in professional development programs at
स्क्रीन शेयर का बताइए कैसे होगी मेरी पीपीटी
and university level.
आप कर दोगे शेयर
Member of the
तो मैं
Indian
आपको फिर बोल दूंगा यस प्लीज तो उस टाइम फिर आगे बढ़ जाइएगा
Teacher Educator.
Rohit, kindly allow to share the video. So, sorry for interference. Allow to share the PPT.
ओके
All India Association for Educational Research, AIAER, Global Educational Research Association, GERA, Delhi State Science Teachers Forum, DSSTF, and All India Science Teachers Association, AIAER. He was elected in the executive body 2010 of AIAER and IATE 2017 to 2019. Now I request Dr. Amit Ahuja to deliver an expert talk on the topic identifying a research problem analysis and reporting to related literature. Dr. Amit Ahuja.
Thank you, sir. Am I audible? First, I would like to know.
Yes, sir, very clear.
Okay. My request host to share my slides. I have sent to them. And in a
Yes, sir.
formal way, I would like to say my sincere thanks to the host colleague, respected Professor Guman, Professor Kothari, and Dr. Pushpinder Kumar, the principal of this institute. It's a matter of pride for me to be here with you to deliver this small talk or interaction on the topic research, that is identifying the problem, analysis and reporting of literature. Before this, the host start sharing a slide with me, I would like to dwell on with you on the fact that what is a problem? What is a problem? What does a problem is constituted by? Because identification of a problem is the first step for research. Simply, problem means anything that disturbs an individual is a problem. For a problem to be disturbing, perturbing nature, is mandatory, otherwise it's not a problem. Yes, please, next slide. If a problem doesn't disturb you, it's not a problem. Now, if there is no problem, then what is there an issue? Because through research we address the issues and solve the problems. Kindly look at the difference between the two. Problem must be solved. Problem must be solvable. It's a problem. Anything disturbs a problem. Then what is an issue? Issue means an ongoing thing, like a war between us and our neighbors. You can see the neighboring countries. These are issues. These are addressed. They are not solved because of their virtue of their own nature. Jo sudhrenge nahi kabhi bhi. That's why the issues goes on. Issues are addressed. Issues are now resolved. The problems pertaining to women empowerment, gender studies come under the issues. So research addresses the issues. But the problems like teacher training issues and technological inculcation, etc., they come under problem. So there's a difference between the two. Second thing, as I said, problem must be solvable means if a problem cannot be solved, it's not a problem. For example, what happens to an individual after death is not a problem because there are no means or tools to address this problem or address this issue right now so that it may be solvable. Because how can we know what happened to an individual after death? For example, because of ND, near-death experiences, some people become alive. So they narrated their story, what happened with them. But these are subjective experiences. They cannot be incorporated into body of knowledge. So we don't have definite means. Another example is that, what is the time right now? It's 20th June, 2020. Day Saturday, and time is 5:43 and 55 seconds with me. Besides this, month, day, year, time, hour, second, minute, what micro level you can break this time? Okay. Now my question is, who are the group of people who was authority who started the time 12 a.m. midnight, and since then the time is running? Isn't it so? Now, who are the group of those people? Nobody is interested in that. Let it be, but we are obeying in that, obeying their work contribution towards the time that's running till now, and the time is going on. So such things doesn't come under the domain of research. So you must understand this. The first step in identifying a research problem is this choice of suitable problem for investigation. That suitable means, is it researchable? And it takes place whenever there is some disturbance or perturbation and need arises. Next, please. And then after that, after identifying a problem, first step is identify the domain in which you are interested. For example, you are interested in conducting research in curriculum, say technology, say teacher training, say gender studies, or anything else. First of all, it is better to understand or identify a broad field in which you are interested. Interested doesn't mean only interested. Interested means you have substantial knowledge of that field also to conduct that research. Otherwise, merely having an interest, it is of no use. I have interest in French language also, but I don't have knowledge of that. So how can I conduct a research in that? Then researchers' interest, enthusiasm, curiosity. Curiosity means what happens after that. Don't go for research for earning a degree, and for that we have to go formally. Go there to quench your thirst for knowledge. That is through curiosity. What happens after that? What will happen if you don't add into the body of knowledge through your research? आपके research ना करने से क्या हो जाएगा? ये देखिए, यही आपकी significance होगी research की. That will be the significance of your research also. Then, is the researcher motivated enough to conduct the research? That means to meet the challenges that are coming, or just the person becomes disappointed very soon. Next, please. So these are the key things that have to be known on the part of researcher to conduct. Then in the selected field, then the researcher must take initiative. A kind of dareness, a sahas bhi yahan zaruri hai iske andar karne ke liye. And originality must be there. That's the novel ideas should be taken into account. Don't go for over research area. I will come to this point. Don't go for over research area. That is, review of related literature will be helpful for me in the next section. And be judgmental here while conducting. How does your research differ from others? That is by selecting with respect to the field. And a thorough understanding of known, that is already already existing knowledge with you. That is, with what ideas you are floating in that field is mandatory for you. Next, please. Then after that, literature reviewed may be helpful for you for this. I will come to that point, and it helps you you understanding the gaps in the field identified. You see, this is the gap. If you are able to identify must be gone through research. If you ignore this, that means you haven't conducted review of related literature properly. And in that journal, periodical means any literature that comes with periodicity, annual bibliography, keep you updated what's going on in and field. I remember the movie Koi Mil Gaya, a hit movie by Hrithik Roshan. Rakesh Roshan took 1.5 years to shape the Jadoo, that alien, and searching for location, for going star casting, for selecting film, that is cinematography, etc. But it took only 6 months for him to shoot only. But what does a researcher do? Researcher is very interested or very keen to go for data collection. Let me go for that. That 1.5 years for Rakesh Roshan is the period for a researcher to go for library to visit, to consult the literature, and come with develop research questions and develop research objectives, hypothesis if pertaining, go for sample sampling properly. As said by Kothari sir, very recent now, sample must be ample. I say this, there must be abundant sample, and randomization doesn't mean the sample is normal one. Do look at this. For example, if you go for implementing t-test without knowing, उनके बीच में t-test लगा दिया, kindly go for analyzing it, deducing its skewness, kurtosis, etc., whether it pertains to normal, that whether the selected sample is approximately nearly symmetrical with respect to normal probability curve, then go for applying that parametric test, that t-test or anything else. Otherwise, go for corresponding man-Whitney test. But we go without assigning any reason, go for parametric test. So these are things that are to be avoided. Such findings lead to mere confusion, or these are shallow findings in nature. Then next please, researcher must be careful while applying this statistical tool. Kindly look at this. People generally say, math mein bahut kamzor hu, I'm very weak in mathematics. It doesn't mean. Statistics requires clarity of fundamental in your mind. Go for that. Simply only, you have calculator with you, you have SPSS with you, then why to bother? But people get afraid of this. Researcher then after that must narrow down. That is, this problem must be framed. I will give you some example after this exercise, this presentation. Must be narrowed down, specific to pertain a certain aspect. Then researcher must state specific research questions that derive those research questions. You see, research questions must be researchable. Questions are answerable. If the research questions can be answered like a paper, pen, and essay type, then do remember it's not a research question, it's mere a question. So kindly discriminate between the two. Research questions require you to go for field visit, go for data collection, and so on. We conduct human research, that is in education, and we go for data collection through mobiles like nowadays we are going. Or we visit the sample only for once and we ask, what is your perception of life? So first of all, it is advisable to have a rapport with the sample or the pupil. Make them realize that you are not a harmless creature for them, and then they will come with your inner feelings, then they will deliver your own thoughts, etc. So take your time. So again, that's a period of 1.5 years that took Rakesh Roshan for that. Next please. And establishing a rapport with them will help you to dwell deep into the process. Now see this slide. There is a title, Study of the Effectiveness of Concept Mapping and Concept Learning in Science at Secondary School Level. I think it's clear to all. Research question 1. Look at the word. I started with how. How does concept mapping? You see there are 3 aspects. Why, how, what. The most difficult of them is to answer the how aspect. So I started with this. How does? That means it requires you to go for data collection. But see, what are the education implications? But for them, that is corresponding stakeholders. Now the stakeholders may be those mentioned here, teachers, student, parents, whatever that pertains to you. That means that also requires you to go for field visit, go for data collection. So that means without all these things, you cannot work out with them. I was amazed to see that there was a research that doesn't have research questions, that had research objectives and hypotheses, etc. So that means it's a kind of mammal that doesn't have a vertebra, speaking scientifically. So how and what aspects of the phenomena under consideration must be addressed through this. Next, please. Then after that, selection of problems from different sources. Now professional experience. You are a teacher educator. You deal with students, go to them with their day-to-day experiences. How do the students think? How do they interact? How do they behave with you? How do they respond? How do they act, they react, etc. What is the peer influence, home environment, socioeconomic status? These may be the plausible or the probable domain that may be explorable at your end. Because sometimes we say research किस में करें, तो भाई ये सामने एरिया है, आप पढ़ाते हैं, टीचर हैं, देखिए उसके अंदर आप क्या करते जा रहे हैं इसके अंदर. At for a school administrator, now look at this, I have written school administrator and education administrator. School administrator means principal, that is the head of the school, and education administrator means education officer, deputy director of education, joint director, and the other administrative hierarchy beyond principal. So for a school administrator, the corresponding area may be decision making at school level, supervision of the teaching practices at school level. For the joint director, regional director, etc., that may be policy planning areas that may be researchable. So these are the domain that may be through your professional experience that may motivate you to conduct research. Next, please. Then after that, I come on to this selection of the problem sources. Through your contact discussion with the researchers, kindly go on discussing with others, but with humble request to speak less and listen more. Because people go on delivering what they do already know, but they don't listen. Kindly avoid this. So contact discussion with researcher, go on attending seminar, conferences. I have attended various conferences in foreign, also chaired their session also, but what difference I find here and there is that people really go for attending seminar there, but here we say I chaired session in Pagwada also and other cities also, where people come, deliver their lecture and they leave the room. Now it's the chairperson who is there to summarize, but the person is missing there, then they go for collecting their certificates. Is it usable? Is it worthy? Kindly be there, listen the comments for your presentation also. That kindly note there is a difference between paper presentation and paper reading. I have seen there people go for paper reading, they don't go for paper presentation. Kindly adhere to this. Then active membership of professional organization. Next, please. Like as a Global Education Research Education Association of Punjab and many other AIAER, you become a member, but kindly contribute towards that. But one thing that I noticed here in India is that these professional organizations go for organizing annual seminar or conference in the name of activity. Otherwise, they are in a dumb state. But in foreign, it's not so. They are throughout on the conveyor belt. They go on conducting the research, and in seminar they present their own contribution besides other invited people from outside like us. So that's the difference between us and them. Then inference from theory. You have read Piaget theory, Kohlberg theory. Kindly go on deducing their educational implications. I was very surprised when a student of my MA discussed with me the educational implications of theory. He said, when I asked a child of say 3 or 4 years to move his eyeball just like this, okay, then I asked a little younger than that to move his eyeballs, he started shaking his hand like this. So this activity helped me to locate the child in pre-operational stage also, because logic is yet to be developed. So education implications of Piaget theory can be brought into practices also. Kindly go on exploring. It is an example. You may go for any other theory. So this can be a workable area for that also. Then what to research? That is through the application of scientific method, that being logical and systematically, the researcher can test validity now. That is where Piaget nowadays, neo-Piagetian. Unfortunately, we read in B.Ed, M.Ed and PhD only Piaget. We don't go for neo-Piagetian. We don't go for criticism of Piaget also. We should go beyond that. We go for Piaget, Kohlberg and multiple intelligence theory. But why don't we go for other theories also? That is for B.Ed level, for PG level, that's M.Ed and so on. So that a research has a broad canvas to draw a picture through research. Next, please. So this way can help in determining the practicability of the theory. Professional literature, that is go on exploring research journals, develop this as a habit. I'm going to give you some mobile apps also through which you can explore the area also. And at least have a habit to read one journal at least in a month and research problem, so that you may be able to acquaint yourself with the research domain in which you are conducting. And a bibliography, a book, article, periodical, these things are written. They may be helpful to you also for exploring. Next, please. Then after that, technological and social changes. This is an open domain. For example, CCT, not ICT. ICT is information and communication technology. CCT is computer and communication technology. Your mobile phone without internet is ICT, but your mobile phone with internet is CCT. That's it. Fine. So go on exploring the inclusion of the CCT in different areas pertaining to education, like teacher empowerment, teacher professional development in classroom teaching, then that is in learning domain also. This can be a researchable area. I said CCT, you can go for program instruction or any other technology aspect to explore the domain. So these are the various ways that may help you to select the problem as sources. Next, please. Then there is some dilemma that I faced in the mind of some people, that when they find a negative finding, they become harassed. Do you remember, negative finding is a finding? Do you remember this? It's not your fault. इसमें आपकी गलती नहीं है. Because sometimes there are some circumstances. These are the 10 situations when this methodology holds good, so positive finding. But there is one situation also when it doesn't hold, so negative finding. Why not? This is a research. It's a research, so don't lose heart if you come with negative findings, but make sure your tools must be valid, design must be consistent and strong enough. And then after that, besides this negative finding, you can conduct a survey research like thing after some time. Better to say after 5 years. जब 5 साल बाद आप गवर्नमेंट को इलेक्शन के लिए दोबारा चुन सकते हैं, तो एक सर्वे क्यों नहीं किया जा सकता 5 साल बाद? Because it's the mood or the attitude of the people going changing. You can change the sample size, you can change the context, you can change the background. You can conduct the survey so that you go on adding into the body of the purpose of knowledge that it happened after 5 years or 10 years or 6 years or 7 years, we came with this much finding. So these things are researchable. So but thing to be noted is that there should not be duplication of research with respect to objectives or sampling. That is, it should not be clone of that research. You may vary the sample, you may vary the tool, etc. also. So that can be conducted research in an alike area. Then after that, selecting a problem or locating the problem, define the problem in a form that is amenable to research. That is, it can be एक तरह से इसको research के ढांचे में लाया जा सकता है. It becomes researchable, otherwise we cannot. Problem should not, I will give an example. Problem should not be vague, broad. Problem should be clear, understandable. Things are limited, written before you. Delimit the problem properly. Thing to be noted is that delimitation arises before the conduct of the problem. Limitation arises after the conduct of the problem. Another thing is that limitation, the plural of limitation is limitations, but the plural of delimitation is delimitation, not delimitations. Delimitation is a Lakshman Rekha. Be very careful. What I find people go about delimiting their research. Research will be confined in Delhi State. Research will be confined in science subjects. Why? Why in Delhi State? Why in science subject? Kindly write, because the investigator himself, herself has expertise in the field of research, in the field of science. That's why the science subjects have been taken. Since the investigator himself is employed in Delhi State, hence to overcome the administrative constraints and harness that resource in a better manner, the research will be conducted in Delhi. So these are the things, everything must be rational. Otherwise, ये मनगढ़ंत कहानी नहीं है कि यहाँ से लिया और वहाँ से करा हमने research कर डाली. Then define the key term judiciously. For example, through next slide I will explain you. Next, please. Next problem, for example, read the study of the effect of educational aspiration on the academic achievement of secondary school students. First of all, it's clear to all. You see here, I have not mentioned the word here effectiveness. I have mentioned the word effect. Effectiveness is a relational term that comes in relation to another variable. For example, there are two variables in quasi-experimental research or experimental research. But in a survey type research, here you see education aspiration, academic achievement. I have used the word effect because they are working here as parameter. There is a difference between variable and parameter. वेरिएबल, इसका संधि विच्छेद कभी मत कीजिएगा. लोग रिसर्च का भी कर डालते हैं, री प्लस सर्च, और वेरिएबल मींस वरी प्लस एबल, दैट इज एबल टू वरी. दैट इज etymologically it's wrong, and don't go for that. Variable means that it can be manipulated, and parameter means the aspect that describes your present status. For example, what is your right now blood pressure, what is your temperature, this is parameter right now. It becomes variable. For example, if I inject you a dose, then I see your temperature after 1 hour. What's the effect of dose on your body temperature? Then the body temperature becomes a variable, that is dependent variable. But right now, what's the temperature? What's the rate of heartbeat? These are parameters that are describing your present status. In this study of education aspiration, academic achievement, no variable right now was manipulated. Hence, they act as parameter. That's why the word has been used as effect. Then delimit the problem properly. Study of perception of senior secondary school student for science courses. Clearly, it is up to senior secondary school level and only to science student. That is no to business study, commerce students or art students. So that means clear delimitation is there. Define the Q terms judiciously. For example, role of multimedia. Now, what I do with my MAT students. Say yes or no. Role, can it be defined? Let it be. Off, can it be defined? No. Multimedia learning material, yes. MLM need to be defined. So that's a key term. जैसे एक छोटे बच्चे की तरह उंगली पकड़ के चलाना होता है वो देखना पड़ा. In, no need to define. Promoting, no need to define. That is promoting learning among secondary schools, that needs to be defined. So that's a way of identifying the key terms. Otherwise you may lose certain terms that are to be defined but they are not defined. Next please. Then after that, next please. Is the problem researchable? As I've said through the example of what happens to an individual after death, I won't discuss it. Please back, please back. I won't dwell upon that. And then after that, is the problem? I request you to be back to slide 15. Is the problem significant enough? Does it fulfill the gap in the coming area? The answer, if the answer is yes, then it is the. Sir, I said you to go for slide 15. It's slide number 17. Organizers, please. Slide number 15. Yeah, stop here. Then is the problem novel? Yeah, is the problem novel? That means you are not repeating the already conducted research. You are not rehearsing in study. You are conducting a novel problem. That means it is capable of adding something new to the research domain that is already in consideration. And if you go for repeating some other study, then kindly extend its generalization. Extension of generalization means nomothetic approach. That means can it generalization be made there? That means can the research be conducted nomothetically? It's a new word. If the answer is yes, kindly go for doing that. Yes, next please. Then is the research significant? Will the research add to the theory? Will it generate to some new, next please, to some new ideas and so on? If the answer to this is yes, then the research may be conducted. Next please. Then after that, evaluation of the problem, we are discussing about that. Next please. Research competence. Is there our researcher competent enough? Does the researcher have, please back, slide 17. Is the researcher having enough competence while explaining or doing the research? That means, does the researcher have enough statistical knowledge procedure to work with that? Is the researcher interested and enthusiastic? यानी कि थके हुए नहीं है कि बस इसी तरह डिग्री मिल जाए और हम साड़ी तक उसी जान छड़ो जी, ऐसा अप्रोच नहीं होना चाहिए. वहां पर पूरा दिल से काम करना होगा. Then financial consideration. Does it require some financial aspects on your part? If you are going for some research project, you may contact the concerned agency to go for that. Then administrative considerations are there. I remember a Vayogosi of MPhil scholar at Delhi University. She narrated at least 12 times before me. Because of administrative constraints, I could not go for data collection in more school. Because of administrative constraint, I could not go for that. I said, ma'am, please stop this. If you go on reciting this because of administrative constraint, that means it becomes limitation of your research. It's okay, you are cited once, we realize that the administrative consent principle won't allow you. बात खत्म हुई, लेकिन बार-बार आप कहेंगे लिमिटेशन में आ जाएगा. It's a limitation of the study that she could not practice. So administrative consideration must be taken into account. That means, are you going to explore the confidential data? Kindly take very good care of this. Next, please. Then after that, एक्सरसाइज 1. काइंडली मैं सभी से ये कहूंगा कि इसकी ये फोटो खींच लें स्लाइड की और मुझे इन एक्सरसाइजेज का वो रिस्पांस दें. आई विल लाइक इट. आई रिक्वेस्ट ऑल ऑफ यू टू काइंडली क्लिक a pic of this slide, or you contact the organizers also and then answer me. Write your experience of problem identification in 150 words. If you have done PhD, how did you started your problem? And if you are doing PhD, what music you are facing nowadays, and if you are intending to do PhD, what you may face. Kindly give me this in writing in 150 word. My email ID is there, my WhatsApp or Telegram contact number is before you. So this is the first exercise for you. Next, please. Next, please. Learning Science School Collaborative Learning. इसकी भी पिक ले लीजिए. Kindly click a pic of this. Status, courses, counseling, gender, attitude. Frame as many as research titles by using these words. For example, in first star, Learning Science School Collaborative Learning, all these 4 words should be there in same title. Similarly, status, courses, counseling, popularity, all these 4 words should be in the same title. Similarly, gender, attitude, socialization. Kindly go on developing and then let me know how do you feel about that, because it will help you as an exercise how to frame a title. Because we wrongly frame a title. टाइटल होता कुछ है, अंदर कुछ होता है। एक फिल्म आई थी लगान, अगर आपको ध्यान हो, उसके अंदर एक क्रिकेट मैच था देखा जाए तो, लेकिन पोस्टर के अंदर वो सीन नहीं था। देयर वाज नो मेंशन ऑफ क्रिकेट मैच ऑन द पोस्टर। व्हेन द आशुतोष गोवारिकर वाज आस्क्ड व्हाई डिडंट यू डिस्प्ले इट ऑन द पोस्टर, ही सेड हम्बली, अगर मैं ऐसा करता तो लोग समझते क्रिकेट मैच की मूवी है और वो देखने ही ना आते, वो क्रिकेट मैच का सीन अंदर था। तो उसने कितनी सफाई से एक बिजनेसमैन के एंगल से इसको किया। तो इसी तरह हमें रिसर्चर के एंगल से ये करना है कि हमें ट्रांसपेरेंसी रखनी है कि अगर क्रिकेट मैच अंदर है तो हम ऊपर भी बताएंगे कि हम इसके बारे में बात कर रहे हैं, अंदर ही है, ताकि क्लैरिटी हो, ये ना हो कि अंदर कुछ है बाहर कुछ है। नेक्स्ट प्लीज। Study of the effectiveness of computer assisted instruction in learning of English at secondary school level. Change title to. For example, this is a title of quasi-experimental design, study of the effectiveness of computer assisted instruction in learning of English at secondary school level. Secondary school level means it's a 9th class study. For example, learning of English, that means you develop a pre-test, post-test, and so on. Effectiveness of computer assisted instruction means you will manipulate with lecture method. In experimental group, you will deliver the lecture, deliver the information through computer assisted instruction. In control group, you will go with lecture method as usual. Fine. Now I request you to reframe this title if this is an action research, if this is a descriptive survey research. How will you mold this? You will see an entire change in the philosophy of the problem that you are going to undertake this. Kindly take these exercises very seriously. Next, please. Objective: to compare the job stress amongst the government and private school secondary teachers. Okay, frame as many as plausible research questions for this. I haven't set research objectives, and you don't go for that. Frame research questions for this title. Now do remember, I will like to clarify here one thing. You may have 2-3 research questions, and 2-3 research questions may lead to one research objective, but kindly don't reverse that. No, one research question and so on. 4 or 5 research questions may be clubbed together to frame a research objective. Because if I have so many research objectives in exponential manner, then it will be difficult for me as a researcher to cover with that. So kindly take this consideration into that. What wrong thing? Another wrong thing I observe is that people develop a research tool and they go for data collection for 2 objectives. No, this is not the way. For research of one research objective, you may have more than one research tool, but reverse is not true, because that means the research tool is not valid, because it is measuring for more than one objective. So kindly go on for developing plausible research question as much as you can. Next, please. Next, please. Write any 5 sentences on research. You see, this is the most abstract exercise for you. I will ask you to play this with your children also. For example, if a small child is there, ask the child to write 5 sentences on mango, on apple, on summer, on Delhi or India, anything. That's the most abstract exercise. Kindly rehearse this in your mind and see, write any 5 sentences on that. If you are able to write 5, then kindly go for 8 and 10. That means the thing from abstraction has coming to your concreteness. Now you have become a master of that. Then imagine the word without research. What happens to the word of without research if there is no research? Can you write 3 sentences? Do you research daily, often, seldom, never? You go for buying vegetables in market, you go from one shop to another, you compare the rates, and you go for bargaining, then you purchase some potato, tomato, whatever, etc. What intention do you have? Pay less, get better quality. But reverse may not be true. Pay more and get worse quality. So that's a research criteria. Research means you go for visiting from one shop to another. Then what is search then? For example, for matrimonial purpose, when we go for searching a bride or a groom, is it a search or research then? We go for search with certain criteria in our mind that these much is a criteria for the future partner, and go for searching, then it's not a research. So my question stands again here. What do you research daily? What do you search daily? Kindly go on writing this. Next, please. Next, please. I also said every question twice. Study of the reflective practices in science education at middle school level. What are the plausible limitation of this study? Limitation means plausible. क्या end में आ सकता है? What limitation may you face? And another exercise I will like to give you also is that what is the plausible delimitation of this research? That is prior to the conduct of research. Kindly think over that. So through all these exercises, I have facilitated you to explore the world of research with respect to problem selection as much as I could. So take these exercises very seriously. Next, please. Now, another aspect of my session becomes identification of literature. First of all, review literature. It enables to define and delimit the problem. Then things I've written: avoid useless problem areas. Useless means again already done things, over research area. What are the under research area I need to explore? So better to go for under research area also. Next, please. And through RRL, I will like to also explore what the methodology they have adopted in that. Next, please. And at set unintentional duplication, while going for RRL, kindly focus on these are the key areas that you must focus on. What were the objectives and how to cite them? I will come to that. How to what are research objectives? What were the research tools employed, qualitative or qualitative? Sample and sampling. What was the sampling method? Doesn't mean random sampling was exercise. Why? Quota sampling was exercise. Why? You see, you go on answering the why of every question, you will go on conducting the research. So that's why what and how aspects were explored through research questions, as mentioned earlier. But why aspects from your own cognition, if you go on delivering the answers of all these whys, believe me, I can bet you your research will go on. From your own heart, why I am conducting research, besides getting a degree. What will happen if I don't go for research for that? What will add my research into that field? These are the three questions. They will lead to the background and significance of the research for people rush from here to there. What were the data analysis technique they employed? What were the findings and conclusion? So focus on these areas while consulting your literature. Next, please. Then after that, primary sources of information, just like primary sources and secondary source in historical research also. In primary sources, for example, I am the author, I report my own work through journal, I may write book, I may write dissertation also, I'm mentioning this thing and that thing. But it's time consuming because I'm doing my own work. And it gives me a base for own judgment because I'm directly involved in the picture, I'm the active participant. Next, please. So that's why it gives me a broader picture of a thing. Secondary source of information in which author, for example, myself, go for exploring, compiling, narrating, interpreting others' area. It is not so time consuming. I may have 10 researches with me. I'm going to read this. I will interpret because of by virtue of my own thinking. It's not too much time consuming, but there is not so much judgment on the part of researchers also because judgment has been done by others also. So if you go on exploring under research area, listen carefully. If you are go on exploring under research area, rely on primary sources of information. If you are going to research in an over research area, then please rely on secondary sources of information. So this much is the criteria while doing a research in over and under research area. Next, please. These are some mobile apps that you may get a click and download from Play Store. For example, if we are sitting idly and go on surfing the data for WhatsApp or anything, Facebook, etc., you explore these. These are the free apps. BERJ, British Education Research Journal, British Journal of Educational Technology, Introduction to Education and Research Methodology. Last two are useful for your MEd scholars. And last two are also useful for general reading, what research is, how does it work, and so on. Like you don't need to go for reading another book, you can go here. But these upper two, first and second, are basically journals. They cite the work of others, and believe me, I'm a regular reader of these two. And kindly go on subscribing free content of that. No need to go to pay for that. So go on subscribing free and then see at least your English language will improve definitely by reading through this. Next, please. Now reporting RRL. These are some do's and there are some don'ts. Kindly look. First of all, whatever you go for reviewing the literature, classify them in the beginning. That is, research is conducted in India, research is conducted abroad. These are the two big categories. Then trace your research work minimum up to last 20 years. But what practice do I follow? I go for at least 1990. That is before 2000 also, because it helps me to trace the journey. Next, please. So these are the areas with respect to years that must be explored. Then After that, yes, next please. And then after that, year-wise reporting must be there. It establishes, for example, 1991, 95, 96, 2001, 2020, and so on. Then if you find a research of same area, for example, in 2001, I found 2 authors who did some work pertaining to my research like Novel and Carlon, then I will go with alphabetically. I will write Carlon first and Novel later on, not reverse, just like that it's written here. So Carlon 2001 explored this thing, Novel 2001 did this thing. This is the way of reporting the RRL. Next, and then stay here. Then if more than 2 authors are there, then write the surname of first author, but rest must be mentioned as etal, just like here. For example, but in bibliography, you will mention all if they are up to 10. For example, Cover et al. 2001, it will be mentioned in RRL, but Cover J, Hamir T, and Schwan P, there are 3 authors in 2000 work. So Cover et al. Was mentioned in RRL. So no need to write here thoroughly. Cover and Hamir and Schwan 2000 did. No, it's not so. It's RRL reporting section. Next, please. Yes, next, please. Then if 2 authors and write surname of first author, and must be written like this, not end in running way. Like in APA style, you mentioned and in a running way. And surname of second author, for example, Paul and Rowe. Look at this. When I'm mentioning this reporting RRL in RRL, I must write Paul ANDROW, not end running end. It should not be mentioned. It is mentioned in APA format in your reference. Kindly note this here very carefully. Then after surname of author, if more than 1 author may be there, cite the work by writing these are qualitative words by explored. Just say Paul and Rowe explored, Paul and Rowe studied, Paul and Rowe proud, Paul and Rowe analyzed, Paul and Rowe reported, discussed, mentioned, etc. These are qualitative words, kindly give them. But that requires your understanding what is mentioned, what has been done in research work. For example, it has been described, it has been explored, it has been narrated also in a qualitative research. For example, if you come across some research paper, some autobiography mod, so it was narrated by this thing and that thing. So these qualitative words must be mentioned here. Next, please. Don't write title of research in RRL. Do remember this, people. What mistake do this? Paul and Rowe studied, inverted, study of the effectiveness of concept mapping. No, this is not the way. Title is to be written in your biblio. Okay, but here don't mention their work. Cite this in biblio. I mentioned here. Mention the domain of research. What were the objectives? As said earlier also in some previous slides. Tool, sample, sampling, data analysis technique. What they did, what their findings, and of course, what were the implications for stakeholders. Do you remember? If you don't mention education implications, that means this research is not worthy for the society. That means we lack sociological implications of your research. Sociological foundations are weak of your research. So stakeholders must be chosen very carefully. Generally, teacher, parents, and students are taken, but besides this, like curriculum planner, textbook developer, etc., must be taken into account. Next, please. Write the conclusion of review of related literature. That is very mandatory. You have, say, discussed 30 studies at least. So what's the conclusion? If I go through this, because in YOC I also asked this question, okay, what's the conclusion of your analysis or your literature? Cite me in a paragraph. So problem here, the thing can be explored that most of the areas have explored the problem, say at which level? At college level, at university level, or school level. For example, if most of the areas have explored at school level, was it primary, secondary, senior secondary level? Then for which subject this research has been done? For example, program instruction has been done mostly for mathematics and sciences. Concept learning has been done for sciences. Okay, for say multimedia method has explored the social sciences also. So this is the domain that may help me to present the things in crux. Then locality, most of the researches have been rural area, urban area, slum area, they can be mentioned. Or for which education management, most of the researches have been conducted in government, private, aided institution. So this can be helpful me in analyzing the research. And if we go for stakeholders, I say teacher, students, parents, school administrator, education administrator, textbook developers, curriculum planners. Definitely these are our stakeholders. They may be mentioned here that most of the studies have implications for school teachers and principals only. So that means there have been very few study, no study conducted for curriculum planners, those who frame curriculum plan, frame or plan the curriculum for us. So that must be taken as target audience by this researcher who is going to conduct the research. Okay, my research will have at least through an objective with that. That's, and thanks very much. That was my about presentation. Next please, I request all of you to kindly go through this and respond me through these questions. If you have any question, query, you can ask me.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir, for expressing your views with the FDP participants about identifying a research problem analysis and reporting to related literature. We really enjoyed your presentation. We appreciate you making time in your busy schedule to speak in this FDP. Thank you again for your time. Now I request Dr. Pargat Singh Garcha, Secretary CTEF Punjab and Chandigarh Chapter, to propose vote of thanks. Dr. Garcha.
Thanks, Dr. Saab. Thank you, Ji. Very good evening to all. I would like to propose a hearty vote of thanks to our chief guest, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Punjab University Patiala, Professor B.S. Kumanji, for gracing the inauguration session of 7 days FDP on research methodologies in social sciences and delivering the inaugural address. Thank you, sir, for your very interesting and thought-provoking address. Professor B.S. Kumanji described how research is becoming day by day an integral part of each aspect of teaching learning process. And sir has beautifully explained we need to keep in mind that quality of research matter a lot as compared to quantity of research. Sir highlighted the issue of lack of interdisciplinary research and dialogue in our universities. We are living in a globalized world but working in isolations, and research has limited market value. So we need to be well educated to conduct and guide quality research. Sir has also beautifully explained the importance of social science as evergreen stream in higher education. I am sure that all the participants have taken note of the valuable views of Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, and will be discussing within their organization the action to be taken at their level. Next, I would like to thank our distinguished speaker, Dr. R.G. Kothari ji, for presenting excellent keynote address and setting the tone of this webinar in an interesting and meaningful way. Sir has beautifully said that the research should generate teaching practices and teaching should generate research. We all can learn from this session of Professor Kothari ji how a researcher and practitioner should speak in a session. Each and every statement in more than 70-80 minute session was with the reference of the concerned research study and one or two researcher. Sir, your way of explaining the fallacies in deciding the sample number at post-graduation, MPhil and PhD level researchers was really wonderful. Thank you, sir. My next sincere thanks is to Dr. Amit Ahuja ji from University School of Education, Guru Gobind Singh, Indraprasth University, Delhi, for a very informative presentation on identifying a research problem, analysis and reporting of a related literature. Sir has explained the technical difference between issue and problem, live examples from life and cinema to explain the process of identification of research was making difficult concept a very simple and interesting. Key points related to review of literature, sources of review of related literature, way of reporting, review of related literature were shared with the examples. Sir has given some thought-provoking exercises to all the participants to apply the learning from the session. Thanks a lot, sir, for this informative session. I would also like to thank our CTEF, Punjab and Chandigarh chapter president and principal, of MMMC College, Dr. Khushwinder Kumar ji, who is a guiding force of this webinar. I appreciate the hard work of all the team members providing excellent facilities for the webinar. Last but not the least, all my dear friends who are attending this webinar across the nation. So I am really thankful to each and everyone. I request you all to reflect on today's session, and we will meet tomorrow with the two great speakers, Dr. Arvind Jha and Dr. Amit Kauds. Both are seasoned personalities in the field of research. You will enjoy the session. Till then, have a nice time ahead. Good luck. Thank you very much.